Welcome to For the Purpose of, the podcast about trends, big ideas, and exciting news in the world of EdTech. I'm Ron Hellman, Education Technology from Kent ISD, and I'm here with
Sarah Wood
and Keith Tramper.
Today we have a special guest joining us. We have Cherie Joseph Foss, who is a diversity consultant at Kent ISD, and we will be talking about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as how that translates into the world of tech equity in education.
So our intro question for today is, with so many people being laid off at the major tech companies, what does this mean for us as consumers and educators? Let's start with Sarah.
So I'm kind of curious how this is going to obviously affect the world of education, but wonder what kinds of company or organizational level supports are going to be lost with these layoffs. Are some of the statewide reps going to be lost? Are some of the trainers, or are just their regions going to be expanded so you have minimal contact with them at that point? But I think one thing that my mind goes to right away, and maybe it's just because we are in tech and we are problem solvers, is what will tech support look like? How will that be affected? And will it change in the support that end users have in troubleshooting or just product usage? Or is there going to be diminished quality in products? I don't know. I just have lots of questions. I have no answers.
Yeah, as we start to strain that workforce, how is it ultimately going to impact our teachers?
Absolutely.
For me, I'm looking at the other angle of that. We've got all these people that are now jobless, but have probably some significant tech skills. And we've been in this market for a while where so many of our tech companies and even non-tech companies are just dying to get some people with some tech skills into positions in their companies to help them grow. And I'm wondering if this might be a catalyst to get those people into positions at these companies that have been needing that support for a long time and just can't offer the same kind of perks that the Googles and the Twitters of the world can. And it makes me wonder too, what will that do to the products that are out there? Outside of the big tech companies, are we going to see more startups start to come out of that because these people are now looking for new jobs and new endeavors and following their passions, or supporting companies that they may have not ever given a second look to? So is it going to increase competition? I don't know. I think I'm with you, Sarah. I don't know that I have the answers. I have lots of questions of where that will go, but I see a lot of promise in it too for increasing competition and hopefully making better products in the end for our students and our teachers.
Yeah, I think you're right, Keith, with you're going to see new opportunities for folks that may have never thought before that they could be an entrepreneur and start their own business. I'm going to be semi-contrarian about things, as always. I don't think the layoffs that we're seeing in tech are really going to change a whole lot. Most of the companies were extremely overstaffed because during the pandemic, they hired unreal amounts of people, and they're kind of getting back to a normal level. Just doing some background on this too, Google, for example, has 30,000 managers. Okay, 30,000 managers managing teams. So, when you think about the layoffs, there's been 18,000 at Amazon, about 12,000 at Google, 10,000 at Microsoft. They're really small compared to how many employees they actually have. And again, back to the pandemic, Amazon hired 746,000 people during the pandemic. So they increased their headcount 93% from the fourth quarter of 2019 to the third quarter of 2022. So really, when you get down to it, the number is pretty small when you look at how many they already have as employees. They're reducing their headcount somewhere between 1% to 2%. So it's not as dire as it might sound. I feel really bad for anybody that's going to lose their job, but I think there's probably some openings out there, because when you think about even the United States unemployment right now is 3.4%, which is extremely low. I think that's, I think we're getting back to historical levels here again. There's another story I keep popping up too about how many people have just not re-entered the workforce. And especially when you look at service sector jobs, we can all appreciate every time we go someplace trying to find somebody in a place or find employment. I think in the service industry is extremely difficult. It's kind of like when you go to a hotel and they don't change your linens for 4 or 5 days because there's like nobody to do that.
We didn't need to be
Hard to
gross
say
with
it's
that.
well, you know what? I don't mind. If they just give me a key to the closet and I will change my own bed in my hotel room, I'm fine with that. I'm a big boy. I can do that stuff. I got learned well. So anyway, I think, it's going to take a little time for all this to weigh out, but it's really not as terrible, I think, as some may have said. I think, again, we're getting to some point of equilibrium here, I think. And just really, again, it's sad for those people that have lost their positions, but I think maybe with some new things like artificial intelligent chatbots, maybe the customer service things won't be as bad. But again, there's a lot of amazing things I think we'll see technology do in the next several years just because of the advances that we're seeing.
So will AI help change sheets in hotel rooms then?
You might get a robot, but they can't do beds yet. I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
I mean, my stupid vacuum upstairs can barely not kill itself by hurling itself down the stairs. So we'll see what happens.
You get the notification. Your vacuum has gone off a cliff.
Yeah, it does that all by itself.
Sounds like you need a new cliff sensor.
Something.
We'll be right back after this short message.
Hello, listener. We know that you like our show, and if you like our show, you probably like EdTech. Did you know there's a network full of people who share your interests? The Kets are a network of leaders in EdTech in and around Kent County. Our community focuses on the power of learning together, sharing ideas, exploring resources, and discussing tough questions. Whether you're a classroom teacher, coach, media specialist, tech director, or you're just interested in educational technology, you belong in Kets. We hope you'll join us at our next meeting on March 29. To register and learn more, go to bit.ly/KetsReg22. That's bit.ly/KETSREG22. See you there. A special shout out to our Podcast PDX community. This episode's reflection question is, how do you think technology impacts equity? Respond or learn more about Podcast PDX at bit.ly/FTPO-PDX.
And welcome back. We have Cherie Joseph Boss, who is a diversity consultant here at Kent ISD, joining us on For the Purpose of today. Welcome, Cherie.
Hi, thank you, Sarah.
Wondering if you could just introduce yourself, kind of share with our listeners who you are, what your education origin story is, and what you do and why you do it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me on today's episode. I am Cherie Joseph Boss, the Diversity, Equity, and Belonging Consultant at Kent ISD. I come to you with over 20 years of educational experience, having an array of learning opportunities for my personal and professional growth. I am a product of Kentwood Public Schools, although when my brothers and I were there, it was not nearly as culturally and linguistically diverse as the district is now. After my high school graduation, I attended Grand Rapids Community College, where I had my first Black teacher. Would you both like to know who that teacher was?
I'm fascinated.
My own mother. I know. People are they're in awe when they hear that.
How many people can say that?
Exactly. From there, I transferred to an HBCU, historically Black college and university, mine being Southern University and A&M College, located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. After graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree in elementary education, I invested my time and efforts into exploring distinct communities and cultures. Having taught in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, downtown Muskegon, Michigan, suburban Dallas, Texas, and Oak Park, Illinois, which is a near west suburb of Chicago, before coming home to, Kentwood, Michigan, my multicultural awareness and inclusion in assisting scholars with different backgrounds and needs succeed insurmountably increased. And because of this, I have been consumed with my own lifelong learning in order to support our scholars' learning. I went on to receive my master's degree from Western Michigan and education specialist degree from the University of Michigan. And I am currently working on my dissertation to obtain a doctorate degree in education from the University of Michigan. Among the many components of putting my professional learning into practice, a few nuggets where I have reaped major learning gains for my scholars is having learned the true meaning of equity, the importance of differentiated instruction, and why culturally responsive teaching was the best fit for me in improving my own classroom instruction.
Man, I love that. Before we go too deep into our conversation, I was wondering if you could provide us with a definition of what equity means as it relates to our educational systems.
Yes. People often confuse equity with equality. Although both of these terms deal with resources and social justice, they are two different concepts. Equality means that individuals receive the same treatment, they have equal access to resources and opportunities. Equity, on the other hand, means that each individual receives what he, she, or they need in order to be successful. And this will vary across racial, cultural, and socioeconomic lines. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, opportunities are not equally distributed. Dismantling educational inequities will only move us closer to leveling the playing field for all of our scholars. Yes, every single one.
And I think that kind of feeds into the next question I was going to ask is, why do you feel it's important for all members in the education system to value diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I am so glad that you didn't leave it just at educators in a school system, because it's more than just that. As a scholar, as a parent, educator, or community member, we all walk into a space holding an assortment of our own beliefs, our own prejudices, and biases. And biases, well, as many of us know, we all have them. So in order to combat prejudices as well as racial and cultural discord, we must be intentional in cultivating inclusive schools and classrooms and celebrating diversity and the respect for dignity of every human. Our scholars need to learn that all cultures have had some type of contribution to our society in some way or another. So with their help in creating equitable, inclusive educational environments, they can help drive meaningful change. They can help foster a sense of belonging for all scholars, all families, all educators, and all community members.
So let's say I am an educator who is looking to really commit to making changes in my environment as far as incorporating equity practices. What are some small things, maybe a Monday ready kind of thing, or something that teachers could start out with as far as implementing equity practices into their classrooms and practices?
Yes, when you ask me this question, Sarah, I think quick and easy. There is no quick and easy. Oh, well, I did and I do want all education practitioners to know that with consistency, I would suggest my number one equity practice: know your scholars, know the communities in which you serve, learn about their cultures, learn about the history, their background, do your homework. Who are your scholars within your classroom, within your school? Where do they come from? Meaning, what is their story? Keep in mind that some stories you'll gain quickly, while other stories will take time. Learning this information will help you as an educator to better serve your scholars.
I love that. It just made me think of a video I watched recently that said, make a list of all your students in your class and write down 3 things that you know about them. If you cannot write down 3 things, you know what you're doing on Monday.
That's right. That is right.
That's a great practice.
Yeah.
All right, so this being an ed tech podcast, we got to get into some of the technology side of equity. So my question for you is, how do you see technology both support and hinder culturally responsive teaching practices?
That is a very good question, Keith. In the 1990s, the framework of culturally relevant pedagogy was first introduced by scholar Gloria Ladson Billings. Building on that research, the term cultural responsive teaching was coined by researcher Geneva Gay, and that wasn't until 2000. Since then, the research around culturally responsive teaching and other asset-based pedagogies have evolved. By incorporating high-quality digital content into the integration of the culturally responsive teaching framework, scholars not only have an opportunity to amplify their voices, but they engage in scholar-centered digital activities. They'll be able to enhance their vocabularies. It will encourage deeper thinking and ultimately empower them to become creators of information, not just consumers of information. So digital content has power, and when used purposefully, it has the potential to serve as an equalizer.
Yeah, it's so important to use technology in ways that help our students become more empowered.
Yes.
In fact, that's one of the main strands of the work we do, is trying to empower our students through the use of technology. Now, with any technology, anytime we introduce it, sometimes it can help students, it can empower people, but other times it can shut people down and exclude them from conversations that they should be a part of. How do you see technology both supporting and hindering equity in education, not just the culturally responsive teaching practices?
Yes. Thank you for asking this question. There's K-Connect, and they are a collective impact organization within Kent County, and they work to ensure that all children within our county have an equitable path to economic prosperity through family, through high quality education, and community support. So their primary focus is on equity. They had a recent analysis that they did back in 2022, so that was last year, where they identified a goal of having racial and ethnic demographics of the educator workforce matched that of the county's 43% of Kent ISD scholars of color. Well, the report further indicated that in order to close the gap, because there aren't many educators of color, we would need to hire 2,175 educators of color. Yes. This is an example of using technology and data to support equity in education. But then, what about that pandemic that we all went through? The pandemic has shown us that digital inequities affect our schools and our communities. So I have learned that issues involving digital equity are multifaceted, multi-level, and at times they can be technical. Well, small changes can make a big impact. One thing that teachers and instructional staff can do is first begin with surveying their scholars. What do they already know? Do they have high-speed internet access at home? If not, what suggestions and resources can your district, or where we are, ISD professionals recommend? There are experts in this area that are ready and willing to support. All teachers have to do is reach out. A second thing that I wish I had been consistent in doing myself is trying out a new technology platform or app prior to involving my scholars. You know, there's always the greatest new thing, right? And you hear something great that somebody has tried and you want to jump on it. It's not that I didn't have insight into what my scholars were experiencing, is that I myself have at times been naive to implementing the greatest and newest technologies without trying it first to work out the problems and the issues that may arise for one of my scholars, for the learner. A final thing that I have learned as an adjunct instructor for Davenport University's College of Urban Education is that homework and submission policies were a hindrance to the future teachers that I was instructing. By me rethinking my own classroom policies, that encouraged, them to do the same.
Yeah.
So consistency.
Yeah. So when we talk about equity and when it comes to technology, we oftentimes are talking about different cultures in our communities, but we don't always talk about students with special needs and disabilities. How do you see technology playing a role with supporting those students as well?
I have been blessed to be a general education teacher for most of my years as a classroom teacher. And so I had all students, right? And so I had the opportunity to see some of the similarities, but also some of the differences. And that is a true difference. I wish that I had created an equity vision from year to year. I wish that I had better involved my scholars, especially my students with disabilities, into how they wanted to infuse technology into their lessons. Learning about how they would like to use technology to learn would have been a game changer for me. Why? Because they really would have elevated their voices and taken ownership and accountability over its use.
Trust your students to be the best knowers of themselves,
yes,
right?
They know exactly how they best learn, and we need to tap into that more.
And I love that perspective of giving the students that ownership and allowing them to contribute to that conversation and have that voice in their learning. And maybe taking it one step deeper, how would you recommend that educators would maybe enlarge some of those conversations about students with disabilities and helping adults to better advocate for them and their needs, especially if they have a disability that might inhibit their speech or communication?
Mm-hmm. I definitely don't know all when it comes to tech equity in a special education setting, but what I do know is that our scholars with special needs deserve support for instruction, which means that teachers and our instructional support staff, they need to be provided professional development to determine which educational devices fit the needs of every single one of our scholars. We have to engage in creative problem solving. From the words of author Elena Aguilar for the book Coaching for Equity, every child, every day.
You've just got me thinking now, but is there anything that we didn't get to today that you were hoping to talk about?
I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and just talk about tech equity, what really makes equitable classrooms and equitable schools as we think about infusing all of this technology into it. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come and share. One thing I would like to remind our listeners is that there are wonderful, wonderful educational tech consultants at the ISD. You need to come and pick their brains. I get the advantage of doing that on a daily basis. So there is just an abundance of information, resources, knowledge that they will share with you, ready and willing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you chatting with us today. And if our listeners have any other questions or want to pick your brain about something, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
The best way for them to contact me is via email.
And we will include your email address in our show notes so that people can reach out, because I know I want to talk more about things.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for this episode of For the Purpose Of. Thanks for tuning in. Special thanks to Cherie Joseph Boss. And again, you can find her contact information in the show notes.
We're curious, what do you think about the changing landscape of technology companies and how this impacts education? Feel free to reach out and let us know. We always welcome your feedback. Email us at edtech@kentisd.org. You can find all things EdTech at bit.ly/IamEdTech, all lowercase. That's once again bit.ly/IamEdTech. If you like For the Purpose Of, we'd love for you to share it with a friend. And we will catch you next time on For the Purpose Of. This podcast is a service of Kent ISD. It is produced by Ron Houtman, Sarah Wood, and Keith Tramper. Our theme music is Neon Nights by Scott Holmes Music, and our ad music is Vienna Beat by Blue Dot Session. Beatboxing.
I don't know if I can do that one. There's only 3 of them. Do that.
We can't all be Eliza Hamilton there.
Boots and cuts and boots and cuts and boots and cuts.
Cats.
Oh, cats.
Boots and cats.
Boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats.